Triple Zeros. I'm your host, Josh Buckhalter. Follow me on Twitter at JoshGBuck. Hit up the Facebook page, Clocker Sports, the website, clockersports.com, and the email address is clockersports@gmail.com. Man, tonight's Thursday night football game was all set up to be a complete snooze fest and actually ended up being quite interesting. The Philadelphia Eagles took on the New York Giants, actually came back from down 11 points in this game. So, first things first, we got to talk about the fact that there's just injuries galore on the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, in a year of injuries, right, in the NFL, they stand out amongst a sea of many. Like, it would be them, the Niners, I'm trying to think of who else. Patriots lost guys to COVID before the season even began. But they are definitely up there with amongst the teams who lost the most people. So, they were out there with a B-League team in Carson Wentz and Jason Kelsey. Like, it was literally a whole bunch of other guys. Deshaun Jackson did make his return in this game, but promptly made an exit. A couple of carries, 3 catches, 34 yards, but he ended up getting carted off with a leg injury. So hopefully it's nothing long-term for him as he just got back, like I said. Carson Wentz, 24-43 in this one, 359 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. And one of those touchdowns was actually a beauty. Just a dime dropped in to Boston Scott in the end zone to what was ultimately the game winner. Scott actually split his yardage. He had 92 yards on the ground. And that one touchdown, 15 touches, but his yardage was split 46 and 46 between the ground and the air. You love to see symmetry happen like that. That's just a beautiful thing. That's a little math nerd, I guess. I don't know. I'm making small talk. Anyway, Travis Fulgham, the sensation of the Philadelphia Eagles over the past few weeks, was held to his first 0 touchdown scoreless, I guess, game of his young Eagles career. 3 games he had 3 touchdowns. This game he did cross the 70-yard barrier, getting 75 yards on 5 catches, but he did not score as he was not shadowed by James Bradbury, surprisingly. I thought that would be what would keep him kind of bottled up, but it wasn't that. They had Bradbury shadowing Jackson, so that was an interesting decision to say the least. Injuries, though, speaking of returning from injury, you had Sterling Shepard of the Giants come back, 659, 1 touchdown, actually paced the team in catches, so he was out there doing his thing too. And it was funny because you know that they need him, right? Like, it's one of those players there. I don't know how good this offense can actually be. They're not a good offense. The Giants kind of suck, and I'm being nice. But when you see Sterling Shepard out there, you see that there's kind of a different it works a little bit smoother, right? You don't get so when you have Darius Slayton out there who can stretch the field. He's got reliable hands and stuff. He doesn't have the shiftiness though of a Sterling Shepard to make things happen after the catch ability that Shepard has. So seeing him back out there, it's definitely a difference maker. Now they're still depleted. They were without their starting running back Saquon Barkley. Obviously, he tore his ACL and his MCL, I believe. But Wayne Gallman was out there running in for touchdowns and actually had a few big runs late. But Daniel Jones was the guy who made the play of the game, and it wasn't necessarily in a good way. He was 20 of 30, 187 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns and a pick as well, like Wentz was. But he had an 80-yard run, and it was, it just Moses parting the Red Sea, and he was gone. And you could see it happening. You could see the momentum was getting to be too much, and you start seeing the arms get deflated a little bit wild, and the top comes a little bit forward over the feet. He got hot over his skis a bit, and he just went tumbling down about 5-6 yards out of the goal line. Now, that was the drive that Gallman ended up getting the touchdown, but it was just funny to see him be so wide open and let the turf monster get him. They said he got tackled by ghosts. Jones also, though, ended up having the fumbling late in the game on the Giants. I guess it would be their comeback drive. They had just given up the lead. It was a 1-point game. The Eagles went for 2, didn't get it, so it would really just needed a field goal, and Jones got sacked. He was getting pressure all night, but he got sacked and fumbled the ball, ending the game. He's had a problem with fumbles since entering the league, so that's going to be something for him to work on going forward. Here's the thing about the Giants, though. They actually lost this game because Evan Ingram, who caught 6 passes for 46 yards, short-armed a game-sealing catch, and I want to call it a touchdown if he catches it, but there is a defender right there, so it's a good chance that he gets tackled too. I'm not going to act like it's not. Ingram short-arms this thing, and I just can't for the life of me understand why. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, there's a defender coming, but I don't... The angle that I saw, and I can be misremembering this, but the angle that I saw looked like he would be able to at least catch it, secure it, and brace himself for any type of contact, but this is an issue. He's just had these I don't want to call them boneheaded, but just bad plays on his resume. His reel is littered with stuff like that, and he's a guy that you kind of feel bad for because they're really misusing him too, right? But then to go out there and have that moment, you're like, well, damn, I can't really feel bad for you if you're not going to do what you're supposed to do when you do get the opportunity. So maybe he can get opportunity somewhere else. Maybe they move him if they keep losing. We'll see. I doubt it. They need all the weapons they can get. I mean, he's a very talented player. So we'll see what happens there. But that's you hate to see it. Again, Jones, laid one out that it should have been caught. Now, that's not to say that the Eagles didn't miss their opportunities. They had a missed field goal. Fulgham dropped a touchdown that was probably should have been caught as well. So there was some give and take here, but that Ingram one could have sealed the deal, and he just let it go. It's bad. It was bad. It's not a good look for a player who, like I said, has just not lived up to expectations since coming out of college. This win, though, did give the Eagles first place in the NFC East with a sparkling, pristine, wonderful record of 2-4-1. 2-4. This division is going to be won by a team with 6 wins. Now, I say that half tongue-in-cheek because the Eagles, well, who knows? Because they were getting healthy tonight, but they just lost Deshaun Jackson. They just placed Zach Ertz on IR, and they just lost Miles Sanders for a couple more weeks. Now, granted, they just have Boston Scott, who we talked about in the Week 7 waiver wire article for Clocker Sports, stepping up, but they're going to need some more weapons now, especially if Deshaun Jackson's injury proves to be serious. Now, they do have Jeffrey supposedly on the way, but you don't know when Dallas Goedert's going to come back. Richard Rodgers showed up tonight. We know he's got some mixed history, but Richard Rodgers showed up and had a really nice game for him. So maybe you got to keep an eye on him going forward because Carson Wentz does love to target his tight ends. So monitor Goddard in your fantasy leagues, by the way. Just throwing that out there. But I would definitely keep an eye on Rodgers as well. The Eagles, they're going to win it. They're going to win the division because they're the only team. They're going to be the one in the end who are the healthiest, right? Because they're going to be getting guys back. Dallas is just, I don't know if they're as bad as what we saw against the Cardinals, but it's definitely not going to be good. And they're not going to be anything close to the offense that we saw for those first few weeks. That's sad because they were looking like an explosive, exciting team to watch. They might not have won a lot of games, but they were definitely an exciting watch. So hate to see it go out like that. Hopefully they can get that corrected somehow and be competitive going forward the rest of the season. In other news around the NFL, it wasn't just because of the game today that we had stuff to talk about. Odell Beckham Jr. received a 2-year ban from LSU's campus. This for handing out cash in the locker room after the national championship. If you remember, after Joe Burrow and the boys won convincingly against Clemson, they had the Beckham running around in the locker room giving out cash. And people were pointing out at the time, hey, this dude's going to get in trouble. And sure enough, a 2-year, but it's whatever. They're not going back to the championship right now, probably for the next 2 years, so that's fine. He don't really care. He won't be there anyway. But he won't be for any bowl games, so that sucks. That's a disappointment. And other interest for him though, he spoke out alongside Baker Mayfield for the Browns' 4-2 record. Now you might be like, wait a minute, why are they speaking out against their 4-2 record? Well, they've beat up on lesser teams other than the Indianapolis Colts, who may be what you call the paper tiger there. Learned that term today. I can't believe I let that one go past me for so long. That's a great one. But the 2 losses that they have came against the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they got blown out. I mean, blown out. Now, they play the Cincinnati Bengals this weekend, and probably Beckham won't have a great game, but they should win this game. And if they have any trouble with the Bengals, and if they, God forbid, they lose, the frustration coming out of Cleveland is going to be palpable because you're going to have a lot of frustrated fans. You're going to have a lot of frustrated players, and the media is going to be all over this because this team was hyped. I said it coming into this year. This had a Philly dream team kind of feel, and I know maybe less so than when Beckham first got there, but it just still had that kind of that taint to it. Like this feels like it's got a little stank of over expectations and the hint of under delivery on the horizon, and that might be what we have now. They're a running offense, so Beckham's career low year is not really that big of a surprise, but I mean, it's across the board. And I mean, only thing I think that he's up in is, I want to say yards per attempt or yards per target or yards per catch, one of the two, but it's down everywhere. His catch rate is down. He's just not scoring. It's bad. He does have a career high 72 rushing yards, and he got his first rushing touchdown this season, but that's not what you're paying him for. That's not what he signed up for. We'll see what happens to them if they're in it right now, and they only have another couple weeks. I don't think the wheels can fall off enough for him to get traded out of there, so he'll probably have to deal with them at least through the rest of the season. But keep an eye on him as a name that could be moved if things do go to hell out there in Cleveland. Heading on down to warmer climate, it is Tua time down on South Beach. Head coach Brian Flores announced that over the bye week, the team will transition to Tua Tagovailoa as their starting quarterback. He takes over for a heartbroken Ryan Fitzpatrick, who was 3-3 with Miami this year. He's actually completing a career high number of passes, but we kind of know how this story ends with Ryan Fitzpatrick. It looks good until it doesn't, and then when it doesn't, it looks awful, and you don't know if it's ever going to come back again. This was always the plan, something that Fitzpatrick himself acknowledged, but it does come as a bit of a surprise. They come off two blowout victories, actually, over the Jets, and so you wonder, like, exactly what is it exactly that they are trying to do? Well, and I know this might sound crazy, but someone suggested that they have that Houston pick coming in. They might be in position to take a Trevor Lawrence or a Trey Lance, or maybe even a Trevor Lawrence or a Justin Fields, or maybe even Trey Lance. Do you want to just get that evaluation in there and see what you have in Tua right now? I would say yes, partially. And partially because there's not enough around him to necessarily get a great evaluation of him as it is. Now, you could say, well, Fitzpatrick is playing in it, but Fitzpatrick is a savvy veteran, and he has been around the block a few times, and it hasn't been great at all times for him either, even though he's been lighting it up of late. The other thing that I think it is, though, is he's winning too much. And I mean, they're 3-3. They're not doing great, but they're only like a game or two out of first place in the AFC East. And I just feel like they know that there are going to be some rookie mistakes with Tua, and they kind of welcome that to bring on the higher pick for themselves. They already got the pick coming in from Houston, and if Tua wins, well, then you got a damn winner from the jump, and you don't have to worry about it at all anyway. You can kind of make do with what you're going to get. There's no way to really lose in this situation unless you're obviously Ryan Fitzpatrick, who openly questioned whether or not this will be the last time he gets a chance to start. I doubt that for a multitude of reasons, but most importantly, he's a guy who can get your team and your offense jump-started, if not off the bench, at least to get them out of the gates hot. So this won't be the end of the road for him, I don't think, unless he chooses it to be, but it is a interesting timing. I don't want to call it odd because, again, it kind of makes sense, but it's definitely interesting. Speaking of interesting, the Minnesota Vikings, 6 games into the season, well, I guess 7 now, but it hasn't happened yet. I don't know how you want to quantify that. Whatever. 6 games, after 6 games, how about that? The Minnesota Vikings have traded Yannick Ngakoue to the Baltimore Ravens for a 3rd and a conditional 5th round pick. Wow. Now, the Vikings, 1-5 right now, are sitting there trying to figure out what they're going to do with their team. They are, according to GM Rick Spielman, still very much trying to compete, but obviously, like I said, with their record the way it is, it's not looking good. And the other interesting part about them is that they just lost Danielle Hunter officially for the rest of the season to a herniated disc. He just had surgery on his neck, so he won't be coming back. This was a team that I wrote about for Last Word on Pro Football being the duo of Hunter and Ngakoue being the premier pass rushing duo in the NFL because they are just two high energy, high potential guys. Now, Ngakoue only has 1 season of double-digit sacks, but Hunter has been such a force that it's going to easily open up a lot of things for Ngakoue on the back end and make plays. Well, we won't get to see that. He leaves the team with 5 sacks, tied for 4th in the NFL already, and joins a Baltimore squad that just proves the rich get richer. Now, the big oof about this entire thing is that Ngakoue was just acquired by the Vikings via trade this offseason, and the Vikings sent a 2nd and a conditional 5th to Jacksonville. So they traded the same 5th. The 5th is nothing, but they went from a 2nd to getting a 3rd back. That's a negative return for a player who was on pace to meet at the very least and even surpass his career high in sacks this season. Not a good look. Not a good look, especially when you consider that the team also recently, or this offseason, re-upped Kirk Cousins, and he hasn't been great this entire year. So interesting things coming up in Minnesota. We talked the last episode about Mike Zimmer and his future, how he's in one of the down years. Maybe that spares him because they know this is kind of what to expect, but I don't think I'd want that as an owner or as a GM, to be honest with you. So keep an eye on what's happening there. But a lot of movement already. They are the first one. They broke the seal on the NFL's trade season with the deadline just a couple of weeks away. And we'll talk about some more deals coming up in a moment. But speaking of deals that are happening in the now, Dez Bryant joins the Baltimore Ravens. Before you get all giddy, all you Weapon X fans, it is for the practice squad. Dez has not played since 2017, tore his Achilles in 2018 while practicing with the Saints. But the coach and staff there think that if he's healthy, that he can contribute to the team as a physical receiver. They need all the help they can get. And honestly, I have a suggestion for that. It's like I said in the trade segment down the road here. So the Las Vegas Raiders. I almost called them Oakland Raiders. It was this close. I had to fix myself. That's what caused the pause there. The Las Vegas Raiders had their entire offensive line sent home. Yep, the entire starting offensive line at that. Left tackle Trent Brown. Right tackle Trent Brown. Left tackle. Right tackle Trent Brown was sent home. He's put on the COVID list, and so the other starters were sent home for contact tracing. They also sent safety Jonathan Abram home as well, and this caused the game to be flexed to 4 o'clock, and in its place, the Seattle-Arizona game will be taking its spot on Sunday Night Football. It kind of sucks. I wrote about that Bucs game for the Clocker Sports in the betting section about, primetime moneymakers, and I had taken the Bucs in this game to cover and for the under to hit, just because I thought the Bucs defense would slow down what the Raiders want to do. And the Raiders want to kind of play that clock management game anyway. I didn't think they would be able to hit the deep plays that they were hitting on Kansas City like that. But now I'm uber confident in the Buccaneers covering, but the under, they might blow them out, and this could just be a matter of them. I guess maybe the Raiders still try to maybe they go even more conservative and try to just get a score real quick and then just drain the clock, because I don't know. But I definitely like the Bucs to cover this one and the under still. I'm a little iffy on the under. We did hit tonight though. We did hit the Thursday Night Football. The Giants covered and the under hit, and I mean it barely hit because Philadelphia went for 2 at the end of the game and didn't get it. So, the total was 45, and it ended up coming in at 43. 22-21 Philadelphia. Thank you, Doug Peters. Thank you, Giants defense, for stopping that play. That's really what I should say. Former Raiders, Antonio Bryant, drawing interest from several teams, including the Seattle Seahawks, and even had MVP favorite, and this is the odds-on MVP favorite right now, Russell Wilson, speaking his favor, saying that a, quote, humbled AB deserved a second chance to play. We know that they were working together in the offseason. The Seahawks have the rights to Josh Gordon, but AB has his suspension about to end after next week, and so maybe Russ is lobbying early for John Schneider and the boys to go ahead and make this one happen because he could use all the weapons he could get. That's going to suddenly go to one of the deepest wide receiver stables in quite some time, and an MVP just got his. I think that would just hand deliver the MVP award to Russ, and you could probably get rid of all running backs because you just got to let Russ cook at that point in time. They're not running the ball much anyway, so just go ahead and let Russ do his thing, and make it, dude. AB, I don't know about the humbled part though. We talked about last episode about the video of him on Deion Sanders' phone talking to the Barstool guy, saying that he didn't want to come to Chicago because of Nick Foles. I mean, he scoffed at it. That was hurtful. We don't need that around here anyway. You can keep that elsewhere. Take that on to Seattle. Good luck though. Still would be a nasty connection. Talked about some trade deadline deals that I thought would be interesting. Julio Jones to the Oakland Raiders. Now, see, I did it. There it is. I called him Oakland. Julio Jones to the Las Vegas Raiders. They have some young guys there. Brian Edwards, Henry Ruggs. We know they lost Tyrell Williams before the season even got to going. But you just kind of feel like they need something else to help. And Julio, while he hasn't been the most prolific in terms of scoring, I think he can be if it was a different connection. And David Carr, dang, I'm just all over the place with this Raiders. I'm all in the past with this Raiders group here. Derek Carr is one of the most accurate quarterbacks ever. So I can see this being a match made in heaven where they could get that big play receiver to pair up with Darren Waller and that great run game with Josh Jacobs, and that would just complete the offense. Now, who knows what their commitment to Derek Carr really is, but again, he's having a hell of a year, leading the league, I believe, in completion percentage, and just dealing left and right. Again, I told you, he had big wins against the Chiefs and the Saints, doing what he's supposed to do. Just felt like they're missing that one weapon, and they got young guys out there on the outside, other than Hunter Renfrow, who came out of college as 48 years old because he was there for forever. But I just feel like the Julio move could put them over the top and make them serious contenders. Maybe not Super Bowl, but definitely for the AFC Championship appearance. Obviously, if you can't win it, you can't get it. Anyway, that's the first one. The next one, AJ Green to Green Bay. And here's why I say that. Now, I know Green is a guy who is not been the most durable person, but I think that, first of all, I think a lot of that sometimes has to do with change of scenery, or let me phrase it differently. A change of scenery can help that a lot of times, in my opinion. And I think that he wouldn't be relied upon. He'd be the second guy, but he'd be a dependable second guy for Aaron Rodgers, a quarterback who's dealing, but could use some more reliable hands out there. And the Packers, for all their talent, just got spanked by the Buccaneers, and you can't tell me that having another weapon on the field wouldn't have helped. Granted, Rodgers was getting harassed all night, but after that pelvic thrust from going up 10-0. But I still think that AJ Green could be of value there. And I don't think he would cost a lot, because while we saw him go off this past weekend, he hasn't been for most of the season. So if the Packers are looking to add some help, maybe AJ Green's a guy that they give a call out or a feelers out for out there to Cincinnati and see what's up. Again, cheap. They're not breaking the bank for anybody. That's why I don't see them getting a bigger name guy. But I could definitely see them making a move for AJ Green, who could be had for, I feel, a relative bargain. And then you got one that this is we talked about him earlier, Evan Ingram, and I would like to see him go to Houston. And it's not because necessarily I think he's that special. I don't think he's being used right in New York, but I think that Deshaun Watson needs weapons. I almost sent Michael Thomas down to Houston, but they've done enough trading. I don't know if they're going to let this GM do any trades right now, the interim GM. And so if they did one, it would be for somebody like Evan Ingram, I think, who could help at a position where they don't have a lot of other bodies, because they got bodies at receiver. They don't have bodies at tight end like this. And his ability to extend plays, or his ability to his athleticism rather, would complement Deshaun Watson's ability to extend plays, I think, very well, and give him another target. Now, if he plays like that all the time, then maybe not. But I again, change of scenery, I feel like, can toughen people up. It's oftentimes a business decision more than anything, and if you feel like your team's not going anywhere, maybe that's why you see some of these guys do things like short arm passes that would have won the game. I just don't understand that. Maybe I shouldn't wish that kind of evil on the Houston Texans. I don't know. This last one is just complete left field, some hyperbole, supposing what if type of deals. Michael Thomas has been battling an ankle injury, picked up a hamstring injury in practice yet on Wednesday, missed practice completely on Thursday, and so people are on the lookout on Friday. Now, beforehand, he had gotten shut down in what was supposed to be his return from the ankle injury, because he got into a spat with coaches and teammates. Teammates called him Slant Boy and stuff like that, and he snapped off the coaches. Well, let's just say he's available. You know what team should go and get him? The team that's been hella active already, and it's only been one team, that's the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know what you'd have to give up, but I'm not sure if there's too much I would say no to, compensation-wise, draft compensation-wise, because you don't need more young guys. You need ready-to-win now guys, and that would be, you pair him with the field stretcher that you have in Marquise Brown and the big tight end that goes down the seams in Mark Andrews, and the running ability of Lamar Jackson, and I just think that completes it for the Baltimore Ravens. They don't need anything else. That's the perfect team. You got your mid, intermediate to short to mid, just the possession reliable hands. You can call him slant boy all you want to, and that's all he runs. He's got some of the best hands. You got to catch it. You still got to catch the slant route. So I would love to see him go there. And I think, again, that's purely, I think we're far from that. But if it were to happen, that'd be a good spot for him to go. Other games that I am looking forward to this weekend, Panthers and the Saints. Panthers are 3-3, Saints 3-2. Mostly because I want to scout the Saints and see what they're going to try to throw at the Bears. The Panthers just lost to the Bears. So see how they adjust and adapt. And I just, obviously, like I said, get some intel on what the Saints are going to be trying to bring down at Soldier Field. And then the other game is the one that I actually think should have been flexed into that primetime Sunday night spot instead of the Seahawks-Cardinals, which, again, I did update in the Week 7 Primetime Moneymakers article on Clarker Sports there, so go ahead and check that out. The lines, the info and stuff for the Bucs-Raiders game is still up. It struck through, but it's still up on the page. But I also added the Arizona and Seattle game. But this one, I think, should have been flexed into that Sunday night spot. Steelers and Titans. Steelers and the Titans are the AFC's last two undefeated teams, both sitting at 5-0. This is the game that you want to see this. These are two great offenses right now, two quarterbacks who are also playing very well, and two defenses. Well, the Steelers defense is lights out, and the Titans defense is questionable, but they have been opportunistic. So I expect the Steelers to win this game, though, because that defense is, again, otherworldly. And while I admire Derrick Henry and his size, and he's going to wear on the deep on those guys on that backside, he got to get to that backside first, because the front seven is fierce. And so that should have been I don't know how that didn't get it. I don't know. Maybe they felt like the Titans would be boring because they already I don't know, because you get into Arizona games. So yeah, doesn't make much sense. And then lastly, Bears-Rams. This has become an interesting series of two teams that are seemingly always falling short of expectations. Now, the Rams did make it to the Super Bowl, so, they got that going for them. But they have split the last 2 years with the Bears 1-1. They won last year in L.A. Bears won in Chicago. Both games have been low-scoring affairs that have been defensive battles, and as such, mentioning them in the betting article again, they have been I took them, Bears to cover. This is a 6 or 6.5 point spread, and I took the under because, again, these are low score. This is going to be a defensive battle, man. Now, here's the one thing that does change the math. I don't even think a little bit, kind of a lot. Nick Foles. The past two meetings were with Mitchell Trubisky under center. This is a completely different animal, so we'll see what happens. I'm excited. Like I said, I got the Bears with the points, and I'm still taking the under. But I'm intrigued to see what difference having Nick Foles will make this time around with the team that we've seen before. Now, granted, it hasn't made much of a difference offensively. I mean, they've won, but they were winning before, so it's kind of hard to judge. But I want to see if they can make something happen against one of the better defenses in the league. Now, granted, it's probably smarter for them to hand to David Montgomery. Not only does it keep the Rams offense off the field, which is one of the best in the league as well, but the Rams defense sucks against the run. So why not? It's a double win. I still, Bears plus 6.5. I can't remember what the spread is right now, but check that. It's in the Week 7 Primetime Moneymakers article in Clocker Sports, and take the under there. Switching over to the NBA, a quick rundown of some news and happenings here. Ty Lue says that the stars on the Clippers will have to adjust to him. He notes that they will basically just have to get used to him pushing him, is what he's kind of trying to get at. He'll also have to adjust to the analytics side. He's bringing that to it more as well. Speaking of that they're interested in bringing in Kenny Atkinson to join the staff. We know the culture that I talked about it many times on this show. Atkinson brought that culture to Brooklyn and kind of got that spread out style. Everybody was shooting threes and stuff, and I think that's what you're going to see from the Clippers. So I think that also is kind of foreshadowing to a roster change, some kind of significant, I don't want to say overhaul, but a facelift of the Clippers roster, because they were kind of bogged down in the playoffs, and you can't have that. They definitely need perimeter shooting, especially because you're going to be carried defensively by Kawhi and PG, so you can't necessarily have them doing all the scoring. And if they're handling the ball, that means you need off-ball guys, and if they're going to be off-ball guys, they better be shooting threes. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it. So keep an eye on that. There's going to be some change with the Clippers. I think that's a good hire, especially because he's not coming to Chicago anymore. That is Atkinson. That is. So that'd be a good place for him to land with the Clippers. And they'd be building their own version of what the Lakers have in their all-star staff with NBA Joe Gatto, Frank Vogel and Jason Kidd and the like. The New Orleans Pelicans hired Stan Van Gundy to be their next head coach. This is an interesting one. It's reminiscent of one of his old stomping grounds. Van Gundy has a 57% winning percentage, almost 58% career winning percentage. Head coach in 3 spots, career basically a basketball lifer. But this one reminds me of he had wins. He was winning in Miami and in Orlando. He didn't win so much in Detroit, but in Orlando in particular, when he was the Eastern Conference champion with the Magic there, those Dwight Howard teams. The athleticism of Howard. Now they're not the same kind of player because while I like Zion's defense and blocking shots, he's not the defensive player that Dwight Howard was. But he's the kind of polarizing force down low that Dwight was, and he's kind of a young guy. He's not goofy like Dwight either. But you got that young phenom, kind of more athletic than he knows what to do with kind of guy, and I think this is a good hire. It's a surprise one. I thought they would get Ty Lue, honestly, but they went with Van Gundy, and I don't hate it. The man has handles too, so he can dribble, show Lonzo some things. Maybe he can get that shot to work. I don't know. We'll see what they do. I like the hire. Not mad at that at all. The Golden State Warriors reportedly work out for Denny Avdija from Israel. And to this move, all I have to say is go for it. Now, Avdija has not been mentioned as a potential number 2 pick, but here we are. And so, if that's the case, so be it. And the reason why I say that is because the Chicago Bulls are a team that are where a prospect that I want the Chicago Bulls to go after is James Wiseman. And so any team that is passing up on him to get another player I'm great. That's fine. That's perfectly fine with me. And I think that now here's the thing. I'm not sure that this will lead to them taking Denny second overall. But I do believe that this means that pick is available. The Bulls could potentially move up some, let them fall back, save some money, get a piece in return, extra pick. Bulls go out there and get Wiseman. Because rumor has it that the Minnesota Timberwolves are interested in Obi Toppin. Are they taking him first overall? We can see this whole draft kind of flipped upside down, and where the top 2 teams taking guys that they really like, regardless of who people think are the most talented, because they like to fit better, and that ultimately working out in the Bulls' favor. If either of LaMelo Ball or James Wiseman fall, I'd be happy. I prefer Wiseman, but I'm not against LaMelo Ball anywhere near like a lot of people are. But Wiseman would definitely be my choice. So if that happens, hey, look, I'm all for it, man. Go for it, go for it, Warriors. Take Danny. Listen, stay where you are and take Danny, no less. Right? You and Minnesota, you guys keep it up. Stay where you are. Go ahead and do Obi and Denny 1 and 2, which actually would have been the thought not too long ago. But yeah, that thumbs up. I'm happy. That'll work for me. Speaking of the NBA draft, they have announced that it will be held virtually. We saw what that would look like with the NFL. So, no, we didn't. What? Talking crazy. Yeah, I still think that would be cool. I would love to see. I don't mind it. They did do it virtually. Yeah, I'm not tweaking. I'm right. They did it virtually. We done lost the whole year to the COVID, so I can't remember when anything happened. We did do the draft virtually, so wouldn't be mad about that. We saw it in the NFL. Would love to see it in the NBA. I don't know about love to see it, but I wouldn't mind seeing it. You don't really care beyond the first few anyway. The stories are good, but I think seeing them at home is better anyway, because you get to see them with their family members in intimate situations, intimate settings. That's always better. A couple of players returning from major injury, John Wall and Kevin Durant, Achilles all around. Both of them look good in their return videos. Now, these are workouts against light, if any, defense whatsoever, but both players look to be as close to normal as you could get, and as you can tell from a video of that caliber. So hopefully we see them both back on the game. 2 of the better players in the NBA, one of the best players in the NBA in KD, and best PGs, one of the best PGs in John Wall. So speedy recovery. Hopefully those videos are good omens. Hopefully we see those guys back on the floor soon. Paul George. And I know we talked about the Pels a little bit earlier with their head coach, Ty Lue, and his coaching staff. But Paul George, the guy who shot 13%, the guy who went 4 of like 20-something from the field in the finals, elimination game, who was missing a lot of shots, who had a solid finals from in the middle, but the beginning and the end was horrible. Determined to have a better 2021 and hit the gym after seeing his 2K rating. Said he's definitely going to be a 95 next year after getting an 88 this year. Now, I'm sure it was tongue-in-cheek, but this is continuing a trend of a lot of players being openly vocal about their 2K ratings. Now, granted, I get it. A lot of them play 2K, so they're and it's them. You know, you want yourself to be propped up, but you do kind of wonder why the hell is everybody talking about it? Like, damn, y'all really care that much what your rating is? Especially because if you go out there and kill, they're going to raise it. I don't know why you even tripping, but I do understand the frustration over, you know, damn, why we get it. You know, you don't like it. Okay, who cares? Nobody really cares. You know, because fans rarely complain. Like there are some who do, but it's not to the point like players. I don't think I've seen a player who was happy yet, but like the top guy, and even that person's probably like, oh, they gave me one too few, or that guy is too close to me. So I don't know. An anonymous NBA agent spoke out against Rich Paul and Clutch Sports and LeBron James, basically saying that while it's Rich Paul in the public, it's really LeBron James out here manipulating and recruiting and all that stuff for Clutch, and how it's illegal for an active player to be doing such. And this is funny because they laughed when Rich Paul got the agency and LeBron and him started it up together, and they said it would never work, and he didn't know anything about the business, and now he clearly is such a threat that they feel like they have to come out and speak against him anonymously. And I keep saying anonymously because in the spiel that you can find on, I believe, NBA Update, I retweeted it. Follow me on Twitter at Josh G. Buck. The anonymous agent says that I hope you have the courage to push this, to publish this, because it needs to be out there. This Jacobin had the nerve to say, I hope you have the courage to publish this while speaking on anonymously. Come on. That's just the big you clown. That's some clowny stuff, especially with the subject matter and what it is. Look, you might not like it, but then say it. I know whatever. Don't snitch, but tell him this is stupid. That's stupid. It's a stupid thing. I know we push the narrative, and I joke about it about LeBron being the GM and stuff. But to hear an agent come out and say it sounds more or less salty. And then he came out and said that players are getting he's costing players money, and nobody can figure out what the hell he's talking about because there's nobody that he's cost money like that. He just got Contavious Caldwell Pope a ring, so I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But that's what greed, hate, envy, what cake will do. That's some Nelly song right there. 2001? Woo. Dating myself on that one. Oh my goodness. And then lastly, the Chicago Bulls could be interested in trading star guard Zach LaVine to the Denver Nuggets, the team where we wrestled away Arturas Karnisovas from. This is an interesting one. A lot of people think that Zach was untouchable. I from the beginning said Zach was probably the most likely to get dealt, if not one of the front court guys, just because the front court guys were kind of talking a lot. But Zach was the logical choice because he's just the furthest off of the timeline aside from Otto Porter, who I don't know if you can actually move that contract. But Zach could be a guy who moves. I just don't know if you're trading for Denver because what are you getting back other than Michael Porter Jr.? And do you want that? Now, or is Denver giving you that? If Denver's giving you MPJ, then you probably you put MPJ, Kobe, and then I'm guessing you're drafting a point guard at that point, which will lead me to believe it'd be LaMelo. I'm just saying, maybe you trade up for Anthony Edwards. I guess you have options. But I just don't see him going to Denver. We also saw the one, and we touched on it last episode, him going to Brooklyn, and I kind of ran down the differences between he and Drew Holiday, and I still like to see Drew Holiday in Brooklyn more. But I saw one suggested of Zach for Bradley Beal, and I like Brad. 30-point per game scorer as the number one option, more efficient than LaVine, but the stats seem just as empty to me. they were healthier a little bit than the Bulls. I don't know. I don't. That doesn't get me excited. I like Brad, but I think he's still. That doesn't change the math for the Bulls enough for me to wake up and try to make that deal. I would like to see, and I'll close up with that before I go back to the Bulls. I would like to see the Nets, if they do pursue a third star, go for Victor Oladipo. I think his ball handling, his off ball scoring, and his defense would actually be. It's maybe, I don't know about. It's like a younger Drew Holiday. It reminds me a lot of Drew Holiday. That would be somebody that Victor Oladipo with the Nets would be something kind of nasty. Something kind of nasty. Back to the Bulls, though. They are really in a position to do kind of anything. It's kind of hard to tell. Sitting at 4, they're right outside the top guys. I think it's a 2-deep draft. A lot of people think there's probably 3 to 4. 3 is the most common that I've heard, but I think it's really 2. I think it's LaMelo and Wiseman. Now, if you can sit there where you are at 4 and get them, great. But there's been talk of them trading back and looking at a guy like a Devin Vassell out of Florida State. Not a bad pick. Trading up, like I'm saying, going to get Wiseman or LaMelo, who knows. I think you get the idea. They can go pretty much anywhere. So, a lot can change between now and I believe November 19th is the date for the NBA draft. They won't be starting the season until Martin Luther King Day. But just a lot can change, and I've been promising it. And for Pippen Ain't Easy, the article on the 3 perspectives on how the Bulls can shape this offseason, I gotta get out before the draft comes and free agency starts, because I think that we could see some big shakes here. We've heard already about some major moves are coming. We don't know what they're going to be, but I have some ideas. I'm just trying to figure out. And I keep saying it, but trust me, it's. I don't want it to be stupid, basically. I do think though that we're going to see some changes to this roster, and I think it's going to come in the form of one of the front court players or Zach LaVine. And it's not Zach because they don't like him. It's Zach because different timelines. Now they brought Billy Donovan here. So that's why I said front court guys, because again, they were chirping, and they could be the quickest path to getting a star, a better player, an upgrade where you can maximize it. Who that would be, I'll throw that in the article for PeopleAintEasy.com, but I think that we're going to see some kind of change here, something significant for the Bulls before next season starts. That's going to do it for this episode of Triple Zeros. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at JoshyBuck. Hit up the Facebook page, Clocker Sports, the website, clockersports.com. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on Anchor and all your favorite podcast platforms. And check out the stuff, man. Last Word of Pro Football, PippinAintEasy.com, and, of course, clockersports.com. And be on the lookout for the roundtable. Got to get one in this week. We didn't get one in the last couple of weeks, so make sure we get one in this week. And until the very next time, you know what it is, man. It's the sound of the horns.